The next 72 hours, God's crucial warning to define your destiny, beloved. Hear this with the seriousness of a trumpet call. The next 72 hours are not ordinary hours. They are a divine intersection, a sacred turning point where heaven leans close to see what you will choose, what you will believe, and what you will embody. A warning is being whispered into your spirit, not to terrify you, but to awaken you. Life as you know it is being weighed in the balance, and the measure will not be decided by circumstances around you, but by the posture of your inner being. God has set before you destiny and delay, breakthrough and bondage, and within these coming hours, your thoughts, your words, your secret imaginations will determine which doorway you step through. The unseen world is stirring. Forces of both light and resistance press against your soul, and the question is clear. Will you rise to align with the vision God has placed within you, or will you shrink back into the familiar chains of fear and doubt? This is not a season for slumber, nor a time for hesitation. The next 72 hours hold within them the seed of your future, and what you decide, believe, and embody now will define the unfolding of your destiny. The power of imminence. There are moments in life that come like ordinary hours, yet they carry within them the weight of eternity. The next 72 hours belong to this sacred category. You may be tempted to think of them as just another span of days, a Monday blending into a Tuesday, a sunrise that bleeds into another sunset. But I tell you, these are not common hours. These are hours of divine imminence, hours charged with the energy of decision, awakening, and manifestation. When the Spirit declares urgency, it is not to cause fear, but to stir faith. Something within you knows this already. You have felt the restlessness, the stirring in your soul that whispers, pay attention, do not drift. Something is approaching, and this something is not outside of you. It is within, pressing against the veil of time, demanding entrance into your visible world. God's crucial warning for these hours is this: what you choose to align with now will soon crystallize into the events that shape your destiny. Imminence is the sense that what has been long delayed can no longer be postponed. It is the spiritual pregnancy of a promise that is ready to be born. Dreams you carried in silence, the prayers you whispered when no one was watching, the visions that once seemed distant and vague, they are now standing at the threshold, knocking upon the door of your faith. But here lies the mystery. Though the promise is near, it is not automatic. The fact that something is imminent does not mean it will arrive without your participation. Just as a child in the womb requires the mother's willingness to endure the travail of birth, so the promises of God require the labor of your belief, the stretching of your imagination, the persistence of your trust. If you shrink back in doubt, if you allow fear to dominate these hours, you can delay the very thing that was meant to be delivered swiftly. Imminence is both a gift and a responsibility, a divine timing that requires human agreement. Think of a farmer who has long waited for the harvest. He has sown in tears, watered the ground with sweat, and endured seasons where nothing seemed to grow. But suddenly, in a moment he cannot fully explain, the fields turn golden and the grain is ready to be gathered. He must act quickly, for if he hesitates, storms may come and ruin the crop. Such is the nature of imminence. The fields of your destiny are ripe, but they will not wait forever. God is saying, be alert, for the time has come to act in faith. This is the hour where hesitation can cost you dearly. The next 72 hours are not a casual span of time. They are a divine harvest window. Why is imminence so powerful? Because it collapses the distance between vision and manifestation. For too long you may have carried your dreams in the realm of someday. Someday I will be free. Someday I will walk in my calling. Someday the answer to my prayers will come. But imminence removes someday and replaces it with now. It demands that you stop pushing your destiny into a distant horizon and instead live from the reality that it is already pressing into your present. When you begin to feel imminence, you can no longer afford to speak carelessly, think passively, or live aimlessly. Every thought becomes a seed, every word a decree, every feeling an act of creation. But here comes the warning: the imminence of destiny also means the imminence of testing. The moment you are closest to break through is also the moment where resistance rises to its loudest. These next 72 hours may not look like a gentle breeze carrying blessings on angelic wings. They may instead look like confusion, conflict, or distraction. Why? Because the adversary of your soul knows that you are standing at the edge of manifestation, and if he can lure you into doubt, fear or delay. He can keep you locked in cycles of postponement. That is why you must guard your mind with vigilance. Do not let these hours be stolen by worry. Do not allow conversations filled with negativity to lodge in your heart. Do not spend your energy rehearsing failure when God is calling you to envision fulfillment. The power of imminence also awakens urgency within your spirit. Urgency is not panic, urgency is focus. It means you refuse to waste these hours on things that do not matter. You cut off distractions, silence voices that bring confusion, and turn your gaze inward to the reality God has planted within you. Urgency is knowing that every decision, every word, every prayer in this short window carries eternal weight. It is as if heaven is bending down, waiting for your agreement, your declaration, your inner yes. You cannot afford to postpone faith. You cannot afford to say, "I'll believe tomorrow." The kingdom of heaven operates in the eternal now. Let me remind you of something profound. Imminence is not only about time, it is about consciousness. What is imminent in your life is not dictated by the calendar, but by your inner alignment. Two people can walk through the same 72 hours. One sees nothing, the other experiences breakthrough. Why? Because one lived in fear and the other lived in faith. One repeated old cycles of doubt, and the other dared to believe that what they desired was already theirs. God's crucial warning is this: your inner state is creating your outer fate. And these hours are more pregnant with power than you realize. So I ask you, how will you spend these next 72 hours? Will you waste them in anxiety, or will you guard them like a sacred treasure? Will you replay old disappointments, or will you lift your eyes to the unseen fulfillment already forming in spirit? Will you allow the whispers of doubt to steal your promise, or will you anchor your heart in the assurance that what God has spoken is true? You cannot control every event that happens outside of you, but you can control the atmosphere of your inner world, and it is your inner world that defines destiny. The power of imminence calls for a shift. It calls you to step out of passivity and into prophetic participation. Begin now to live from the end. See yourself already possessing the thing you have prayed for. Feel the joy of the answered prayer, not tomorrow, but today. Speak as though the promise has already arrived. Conduct yourself as though you are already walking in the fulfillment of your destiny. When you do this, you collapse the distance between desire and manifestation. You begin to move in rhythm with God's timing, and the unseen becomes seen. Beloved, the next 72 hours are not ordinary. They are divine hours of imminence, hours where your alignment matters more than ever. Heaven is watching, destiny is knocking, and the harvest is ripe. The warning is not to frighten you, but to awaken you. These hours are your opportunity to choose faith over fear, focus over distraction, and vision over doubt. If you take them seriously, you will find that what once seemed far away suddenly enters your reality with power and swiftness. If you ignore them, the cycle of delay may continue, and you will wonder why the promise feels postponed again. Choice is yours, and the moment is now. So rise and treat these hours as holy. Guard your mind, direct your imagination, and declare the end from the beginning. For destiny is no longer a distant horizon, it is imminent, it is pressing upon you, it is waiting for your agreement. And if you align your heart in these next 72 hours, you will discover that the defining moment of your life has already begun. The LAW of inner causation: if the first truth is that destiny presses upon you with imminence, the second truth is this: nothing that will unfold in the next 72 hours comes from outside you. First, everything that appears in your world is born within you long before it shows itself in the outer stage of life. This is the law of inner causation, and it is God's crucial warning to those who still believe life happens to them rather than through them. It is not events, people, or circumstances that hold ultimate power over your future, but the inner atmosphere of your thoughts, your imagination, and your beliefs. What you dwell on, you magnetize. What you expect, you prepare a seat for. What you secretly rehearse in the theater of your mind becomes the script life must obey. God has so designed this world that the unseen shapes the scene, the inner defines the outer, and man lives inside the harvest of his own hidden meditations. Pause and think of this deeply. The arguments you replay in your head, the fears you nurse in silence, the disappointments you relive as if they are happening all over again, these are not harmless mental pictures. They are seeds sown into the fertile ground of consciousness, and just like seeds in soil, they do not remain hidden forever. They germinate, they grow roots, they eventually break the surface and show themselves as events, conditions, and circumstances in your life. This is why some people seem trapped in cycles of delay, heartbreak, and defeat. They think the world is against them, when in truth they are unknowingly against themselves. The law of inner causation never sleeps. It is not swayed by excuses or ignorance. It simply manifests what is impressed upon the heart with feeling and persistence. Beloved, the next 72 hours are critical because your inner atmosphere is defining your outer reality faster than you realize. God's warning is not that something evil lurks around you, but that you must guard what is being conceived within you. The law does not discriminate. If you give your energy to fear, fear will reproduce. If you dwell on lack, lack will show itself. If you imagine betrayal, betrayal will find its way to you. But if you dare to hold faith, if you persist in seeing abundance, healing, reconciliation, and victory, then these too must be drawn into your experience. Heaven and earth pass away, but this law will not. Consider the way light works through a prism. Invisible rays are split into colors the eye can see, but the colors were there all along, hidden in the light. In the same way, your inner state refracts into visible experiences. The anger, the joy, the fear, the faith, all of it was there in seed form, but time separates it into visible events you call life. This is why God's word declares that as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. It does not say, so he will become, but so he is. The inner thought and the outer event are one, separated only by time, and in moments of imminence the gap between inner cause and outer effect narrows dramatically. That is why these 72 hours are a warning. The energy you feed within will show itself without, sooner and more sharply than before. Now, some resist this truth. They say, but I did not cause my suffering. I did not invite this disappointment. I did not call this storm into my life. Yet if you trace back carefully, you will often find a hidden agreement, a repeated thought of unworthiness, a belief that things never work out, a fear that love will leave, a quiet dread that betrayal will come. These inner agreements become the open doors through which experiences enter. Life does not come to mock you, but to reveal you. What appears outside is only showing you what was planted inside. This is not punishment, it is mercy. For if you can see that the outer is an effect, then you can finally understand where true power lies in changing the cause. The world has trained you to fight shadows. You argue with people, resist circumstances, chase opportunities, or curse the delays. But all of this is like trying to rearrange the reflection in a mirror without touching your face. The mirror will not change until you change it. The same way, life will not bend until your inner atmosphere shifts. The law of inner causation is not broken by effort or force. It is redirected by inner alignment. You do not fight the outer, you choose again within. And when you choose, persist, and believe with feeling, the outer must rearrange to match the new cause. God's crucial warning is this: the enemy of your destiny is not out there. It is the voice within that keeps agreeing with fear. If you silence that voice, if you replace its whispers with the language of faith, then no outer enemy can stand against you. But if you let that voice of doubt rule unchecked, then even in the absence of enemies, life itself will echo back the defeat you have rehearsed. The law is impartial. It simply gives back what you plant. The next 72 hours, then, are a sacred test. What seeds will you plant? Every thought you dwell on, every picture you form in imagination, every word you speak with conviction, these are seeds, and the soil of time is fertile right now. You cannot afford to scatter weeds of fear, doubt, and complaint. You must sow deliberately, with the assurance that your inner agreement has the final say. Choose to see yourself victorious. Choose to imagine yourself already walking in the fulfillment of your destiny. Choose to speak words that carry life, not death. Choose to believe that what God promised you is already yours, not because of what your eyes see, but because the law of inner causation demands that what is impressed within must be expressed without. Beloved, think of this truth like the roots of a tree. No one sees the roots, but they determine the health of the branches, the shade of the leaves, and the sweetness of the fruit. In the same way, your inner state, the thoughts no one hears, the feelings no one sees, the visions no one knows, these are the roots of your destiny. And in these 72 hours, God is warning you, do not ignore the roots. If you want to change the fruit of your life, you must change what lies unseen beneath the soil of your heart. Many wait for outer Signs before they believe, but the law demands the opposite. Believe first, and the signs will follow. Feel the victory now, and the evidence will catch up. See the promise fulfilled inwardly, and the outer world will be forced to conform. This is not arrogance, it is obedience to the law of creation. For God himself creates by declaring the end from the beginning, calling things that are not as though they already are. If you are made in his image, then you must do the same. So I ask you again, in these 72 hours, what will you choose to magnify within? Will you magnify the problem, or will you magnify the promise? Will you dwell on the past, or will you envision the future? Will you surrender to fear, or will you rise in faith? The law of inner causation is impartial, but it is not cruel. It simply waits for your decision, your focus, your agreement, and once you choose, it will outwork your choice with precision. Therefore, be sober, be vigilant. Guard your mind as though it is the very womb of destiny, because it is. Choose your words as though they are seeds of eternity, because they are. Direct your imagination as though it is the architect of your future, because it is. And know this, whatever you dare to believe, to see, to feel in these hours must find its way into the world around you. The law of inner causation is God's gift and his warning. The gift is that you are never powerless. The warning is that you are never innocent of what you dwell upon. Harvest you reap is the harvest you sow, whether in faith or in fear. But the good news is this, in these next 72 hours you can choose again. You can shift the inner cause, and destiny itself must shift with it. So rise now in faith, fill your heart with vision, speak life over your future, live as though the promise is already yours, and as surely as the law is true, you will see your destiny defined not by chance, not by enemies, not by circumstances, but by the cause you set within your own spirit. The crisis of decision. There comes a moment in every destiny when waiting is no longer possible, when hesitation becomes dangerous, and when the soul is confronted with a choice that will define the direction of its future. Beloved, the next 72 hours are such a moment, not just a passing season, but a crisis of decision. And let us be clear, crisis does not mean catastrophe. Crisis means crossroads, a divine intersection where two paths stretch before you, demanding that you choose one. Will you walk the path of faith or the path of fear? Will you step boldly into the unseen reality of what God has whispered to your heart? Or will you shrink back into the familiar shadows of doubt and delay? This is the test of every soul, to see if you will finally believe what you claim to know, or if you will continue to live in the safety of indecision. Indecision is the thief of destiny. It disguises itself as caution, wisdom, or patience, but in truth it is fear wearing a mask. How many dreams have died not because of outright rejection, but because of endless postponement? How many callings have withered because the soul said, not today, perhaps tomorrow? Yet tomorrow never came, for the seed was never planted, the step was never taken, and the decision was never made. The next 72 hours carry with them an urgency, because the door of destiny will not remain open forever. To delay is to risk losing what was prepared for you. This is why heaven presses upon your spirit with warning. Decide now, believe now, step now. When you stand in the crisis of decision, two voices will contend within you. One is the voice of promise, reminding you of the vision God has shown you, the inner conviction that you are meant for more, that you are chosen for a purpose greater than your current reality. The other is the voice of fear, whispering of danger, of loss, of failure, urging you to remain safe in the familiar prison you have outgrown. And yet, to heed the voice of fear is to choose defeat before the battle has even begun. To yield to fear is to surrender destiny without ever seeing what could have been. The crisis of decision exposes which voice you will magnify. Beloved, understand this. The defining decisions of life are rarely made when everything is calm, certain, and easy. They are made in moments of tension, when nothing looks ready, when resources are scarce, when enemies loom large, and when the future looks like a foggy road. That is why so many shrink back, waiting for perfect clarity before stepping forward. But clarity comes after obedience, not before. The Red Sea did not part until the people stepped into the water. The walls of Jericho did not fall until they marched in silence. Destiny opens its gates not to the hesitant, but to the decisive. These next 72 hours are not asking you to figure out every detail. They are asking you to trust enough to take the step. The crisis of decision also reveals your allegiance. Will you trust the evidence of your senses, or will you trust the unseen promise of God? Senses will tell you that nothing has changed, that the situation is impossible, that you are unqualified, unworthy, or unequipped. But the inner voice of faith will tell you that all things are possible, that heaven is backing you, and that what you dare to claim inwardly will soon become visible. Outwardly, to side with the senses is to remain bound by circumstance. To side with faith is to enter the miraculous. The crisis of decision is nothing less than the battle between sight and vision. Some will say, but what if I decide wrong? What if I fail? Hear this carefully. Failure is not in the falling, but in the refusal to rise again. Every so-called failure is but feedback, a redirection, a sharpening of your inner alignment. The only true failure is indecision, for indecision aborts the process before it begins. Better to step boldly and adjust along the way than to wither in hesitation and never see what could have been. The next 72 hours do not require perfection, they require participation. God is not asking you to perform flawlessly, He is asking you to decide courageously. Think of the eagle when it teaches its young to fly. The mother stirs the nest, making it uncomfortable, pushing the fledgling toward the edge. The little eagle resists, clings to the branches, and cries in fear. But the mother knows that unless it leaps, it will never discover the strength of its wings. And so, at last, the young eagle is forced to decide: stay in the nest and die, or leap and live. Such is your situation now. The nest of the familiar is being stirred. Discomfort is growing. Delay feels unbearable. Why? Because you were never meant to stay there. You were meant to leap. The crisis of decision is heaven's way of pushing you toward flight. But let me give you a warning. If you do not decide, life will decide for you. Time will carry you along, and the indecision you thought was safe will harden into regret. The doors that were once open will quietly close. Opportunities that once called your name will move on. Destiny does not wait forever. To delay is to choose by default. The crisis of decision is merciful because it confronts you with urgency. It forces you to face the truth. Neutrality is not neutral. To postpone faith is to choose fear. To delay obedience is to choose disobedience. To remain undecided is to decide against destiny. So what must you do in these 72 hours? First, silence the noise. Withdraw from the distractions that keep you paralyzed. Quiet the voices of opinion, the chatter of doubt, the comparisons to others. Enter the secret place of your inner being, and there face the vision God has placed within you. Do not reason with it. Do not analyze it. Do not ask if it is practical. Simply ask yourself, do I believe this is what I was made for? If the answer is yes, then let every fiber of your being rise to agree with it. That agreement is your decision. That alignment is yours. Leap. Second, act in faith, even if the action seems small. The crisis of decision is not only about mental agreement, but about physical demonstration. Faith without works is dead, so your decision must take shape in motion. Make the call, write the plan, speak the declaration, take the first step. Even if it feels insignificant, that step is not the whole journey, but it is the proof of your decision. Heaven honors action. The moment you move, unseen forces move with you. Doors you could not open will begin to open. Resources you could not gather will begin to appear, but nothing stirs until you decide and act. Third, refuse to look back. Once you decide, burn the bridges of retreat. Do not keep a backup plan of fear. Do not rehearse the possibility of failure. Anchor your mind in the reality that you have chosen and refuse to entertain alternatives. The crisis of decision requires finality. If you leave yourself an escape hatch, fear will drag you through it. If you lock every door behind you, faith will carry you forward. Beloved, these 72 hours are not a game. They are a summons. They are the moment where God is asking, whom will you serve, fear or faith? The old cycle or the new vision, the familiar comfort or the unknown promise? And your answer will not be found in words alone, but in the decision you make and the step you take. This is your defining moment. Do not waste it. When history looks back on your life, it will not remember the thousands of days that passed quietly. It will remember the few defining hours when you chose, when you stood, when you leaped. These next 72 hours are such a defining time. Make the decision and let destiny unfold. The call to inner rehearsal, beloved. When the Spirit speaks of the next 72 hours as a defining window, it is not to push you toward frantic outward striving, but summon you inward into the sacred rehearsal of faith, for destiny is never first achieved outwardly, it is always conceived inwardly. What you live tomorrow must first be rehearsed in the theater of your imagination today. This is the call to inner rehearsal, to live from the end of your desire. To walk in the unseen as if it were already visible, to embody the promise before it arrives. Without this rehearsal, the promise remains a theory. With it, the promise becomes inevitable. Consider the power of rehearsal in every area of life. The athlete does not wait for the day of competition to discover his strength. He has rehearsed every move, every motion, every victory in the hours when no one was watching. The musician does not walk onto the stage to play notes she has never practiced. She has rehearsed the melody until it flows through her as second nature. So too with destiny. Outer world is your stage, but the true preparation happens behind the curtain, in the inner sanctuary of imagination and belief. What you rehearse within, you perform without. What you see inwardly, you live outwardly. The next 72 hours are not simply about reacting to what life gives you, but about consciously rehearsing what you will live in days and years to come. The tragedy is that most people rehearse unconsciously, and what they rehearse is defeat. They lie awake at night replaying arguments, imagining betrayals, envisioning failures, and feeling the sting of disappointment long before it even occurs. This too is rehearsal, but for the wrong performance. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between rehearsal and reality. It accepts whatever you repeatedly imagine as truth, and it compels your world to match it. That is why worry is so destructive. It is the inner rehearsal of disaster. That is why fear is so paralyzing. It is the rehearsal of loss. And that is why God's crucial warning in these hours is urgent. You cannot afford to keep rehearsing what you do not want to live. Instead, you are called to a holy rehearsal, to feel the joy of answered prayer before it manifests, to walk in the strength of victory before the battle is fought, to carry the peace of fulfillment before the evidence appears. This is not fantasy, it is faith. Faith does not wait for proof, it creates the proof. Faith does not bow to circumstance, it transforms it. Faith is the deliberate inner rehearsal of what God has already promised, until the soul is so saturated with the reality of fulfillment that the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. Beloved, let us bring this closer. Over the next 72 hours, what picture will you hold in your inner theater? Will you see yourself defeated, rejected, overlooked, and abandoned? Or will you dare to see yourself walking in abundance, clothed in peace, embraced in love, and crowned with victory? What you dare to imagine with conviction is not mere dreaming, it is creation. Every empire, every invention, every breakthrough, every miracle first existed as a vivid inner rehearsal. The outer world only acts as the stagehands, arranging props and scenery to match the script already written within. Understand this truth: you are always rehearsing something. Even now, as you sit in thought, your mind is painting pictures, your emotions are attaching themselves, your subconscious is recording. The question is not whether you are rehearsing, but what you are rehearsing. And in these next 72 hours, rehearsal carries extra weight, for imminence has compressed time. Seeds planted now will sprout quickly. This is why vigilance is required. You cannot afford to let idle thoughts run wild. You must take the director's chair of your imagination and deliberately set the scene of your destiny. How do you rehearse rightly? First, identify the end. Do not imagine vague hope, but a clear fulfillment. See yourself already in possession of what you have prayed for. If it is healing, imagine the body whole, strong, vibrant. If it is provision, imagine the table spread, the debts cleared, the storehouses full. If it is reconciliation, imagine the embrace, the laughter restored, bond renewed. Do not see the journey, see the arrival, for it is the end that calls forth the means, not the other way around. God himself declares the end from the beginning, and so must you. Second, engage the senses of the inner world. Do not merely see the picture, feel it, hear it, taste it, touch it in your imagination. Let it be so real within that your body responds as if it were already true. Let your heart race with the joy of the victory. Let tears flow from the gratitude of fulfillment. Let your mind relax in the peace of answered prayer. The subconscious does not argue. It accepts what is vividly rehearsed with emotion. The more real it feels within, the faster it crystallizes without. Third, persist. Do not rehearse once and abandon it. Just as an athlete repeats the motion until it becomes instinct, You must repeat the vision until it becomes your natural state of being. When doubts intrude, return to the rehearsal. When fear whispers, return to the rehearsal. When circumstances look unchanged, return to the rehearsal. This persistence is not labor, it is alignment. Each repetition etches the reality deeper into the subconscious until it becomes your automatic expectation, and what you expect with persistence, life is compelled to deliver. Beloved, the call to inner rehearsal is not a suggestion, it is a divine strategy. For in the next 72 hours you will face voices, situations, and distractions that attempt to pull you into rehearsing the old story of lack and defeat, but heaven is warning you, do not repeat the script of yesterday, write a new one, do not rehearse what has been, rehearse what shall be, for the future does not come to you, you call it into being by the rehearsal you choose today. Think of the child who rehearses walking. He stumbles, he falls, he cries, but he rises again and again. He does not say, I cannot walk. He rehearses until the rehearsal becomes reality. Such must be your posture, even if fear shouts, even if doubts intrude, even if circumstances mock you, rehearse anyway. Every inner repetition is movement toward manifestation, and when the hour of performance comes, you will find yourself already prepared, already aligned, already living what you once only rehearsed. This, then, is the beauty and the warning. You cannot escape rehearsal. You are either rehearsing the promise or the problem, the victory or the defeat, the faith or the fear. Life will hand you the role you practice most. So if you desire destiny, practice destiny. If you long for breakthrough, practice breakthrough. If you yearn for love, practice love. Do not wait for it to appear. Live it within again and again until it becomes you. Beloved, the next 72 hours are your sacred rehearsal space. Close the curtain on doubt, dim the lights on fear, step onto the stage of imagination and begin to embody the end God has promised you. Speak the lines of victory, feel the emotions of fulfillment, see the scenery of abundance, and when the curtain rises on your outer world, it will only mirror the masterpiece you have already performed within. So heed the call. Do not waste these hours rehearsing pain. Do not squander them replaying defeat. Take the director's seat, write the script of faith, and act it out boldly in the silence of your heart. For what is rehearsed inwardly will soon be revealed outwardly, and what you embody within will define your destiny. This is God's warning, this is God's gift, and this is your opportunity. The warning and the gift, beloved, when God sends a warning, is never to paralyze you in fear, but to awaken you to possibility. His warnings are not threats of doom, but calls to awareness, reminders that your choices, your inner posture, and your faith are shaping forces in the unseen realm. And when the heavens press a warning into your spirit concerning the next 72 hours, it is because a gift is also being offered. The warning and the gift are not separate things, they are two sides of the same divine coin. The warning is the caution not to drift, to neglect, to squander the moment. The gift is the assurance that if you align with faith, if you hold the vision, if you act with courage, destiny will tilt in your favor. God is saying, this is not a time to slumber, this is not a time to play small, this is not a time to live distracted. This is a sacred window, and what you choose within it will define the unfolding of your future. What is the warning? It is simple but sobering. You cannot continue to live divided within yourself and expect clarity without. You cannot sow fear in imagination and expect harvests of faith in reality. You cannot rehearse defeat inwardly and expect victory outwardly. These next 72 hours will reflect you the seeds you are sowing. That is the warning. Life is not punishing you, it is mirroring you. The delays you complain about, the betrayals you fear, the lack you lament, these are not arbitrary accidents. They are reflections of inner agreements you have not yet broken. God warns you not to terrify you, but to break the cycle, to open your eyes to the fact that you hold the reins more than you think. If you change the root, the fruit must follow. If you shift the inner, the outer cannot resist shifting too. But alongside the warning comes the gift. The gift is this: you are never trapped, never helpless, never at the mercy of circumstance. You may have lived years rehearsing fear, years repeating cycles of doubt, years giving power to weakness, but in these hours you can choose again. God gives you the gift of renewal, the chance to sow a new seed, to rehearse a new end, to declare a new word. The warning says, do not waste this window. The gift says, use this window and you will see miracles unfold. Both are true and both are urgent. Let us bring this closer. Imagine a traveler standing before two doors. One door leads to more of the same, the old cycles of fear, doubt, compromise, and delay. The other leads to breakthrough, alignment, joy, abundance, and fulfillment. The warning is that if you choose nothing, you default to the first door. Life will not drag you into destiny against your will. Indecision is still a decision, and it will keep you bound, but the gift is that the second door is open, waiting, beckoning, ready for you to step through. You do not have to force it open. You do not have to break it down. You simply have to walk through with the decision of faith. The gift is not withheld from you, it is offered. The only question is whether you will receive it. Beloved, understand this divine balance. Every warning in Scripture was followed by a promise. When the people were told not to harden their hearts, it was because rest was available. When they were told not to fear, it was because victory was already assured. When they were told not to look back, it was because a new land was before them. The warning was never the end, it was the doorway to the gift. So it is with you. The Spirit presses upon your soul, saying, do not waste these 72 hours. Guard your mind, direct your imagination, choose faith over fear. Why? Because the gift prepared for you is too precious to miss. The warning also carries a mercy. It wakes you from sleep. Some of you have been drifting, lulled into thinking you have endless time, that one day you will rise, one day you will decide, one day you will believe, but one day is the lie of delay. God shakes you now and says, no more sleeping, no more postponing. The hour is now. That jolt is mercy, for without it you would miss the gift. Every shaking in your life, every discomfort, every disruption is not to harm you but to awaken you. The nest is stirred so the eagle may fly. The storm rises so the seed may break open. The warning is the alarm bell of love, waking you so that you do not sleep through your appointed hour. Now consider the gift more deeply. The gift is alignment. When your inner and outer worlds finally harmonize, peace floods your being. No more double-mindedness, no more split between what you believe and what you live. Imagine the freedom of walking as one whose mind, words, and circumstances all agree. That is the gift awaiting you. The gift is provision. What you need has already been prepared in unseen realms, and the moment you align with faith, resources rush to meet you. The gift is restoration. Relationships you thought dead can be renewed. Dreams you thought lost can be reborn. The gift is destiny itself, not a vague idea of purpose, but the tangible experience of walking in the reality you were designed for. And all of this is pressing upon you now, within this window of time. But, beloved, hear the caution again. The gift is not automatic. It is conditional upon your alignment. God does not force blessings upon those who continue to feed fear. He does not impose destiny upon those who cling to doubt. The gift is offered, but it must be received. The warning is simply this: do not miss what is already yours by refusing to believe it. Do not forfeit what heaven is ready to release by rehearsing what hell whispers in your ear. Do not squander destiny because comfort feels easier than courage. So what must you do in these 72 hours? You must treat them as holy. Guard your mind like a sacred temple. Refuse entry to thoughts that contradict the promise. Speak only words that align with the vision you have been given. See yourself already in possession of the answer, and feel the joy of it as if it were present now. Rehearse the fulfillment, not the failure. Act as though the gift has already arrived, because in truth it has. You are simply aligning with its unveiling. The warning is to vigilance. The gift is to rest in the assurance that it is done. Beloved, I urge you, do not let these hours slip by as if they were ordinary. They are not ordinary. They are divine. The heavens are pregnant with fulfillment. The earth is waiting for your agreement, and the Spirit is pressing upon you with urgency. The warning is real. If you neglect this window, the cycle of delay will continue. But the gift is greater. If you seize it, your destiny will unfold with swiftness and glory. So choose now. Choose faith over fear. Choose vision over circumstance. Choose to rehearse the promise, not the problem. Choose to receive the gift by heeding the warning. And as you do, you will find that the next 72 hours are not merely days on a calendar, but holy ground. Where heaven and earth conspire to birth your destiny, the warning was to awaken you. The gift is to assure you. Together they form the sacred call of this moment. Do not waste it, embrace it, and walk boldly into the future prepared for you.